On Christmas Eve, Falcon, a clever raccoon, steals food from several pedestrians in a square in France. However, when he goes to grab a hot dog, the vendor's guard dog catches wind of the raccoon and chases after him. Falcon flees across the street, with the dog hot on his heels, dragging the hot dog cart attached to his leash. Finally, the dog manages to corner the raccoon in an alley, but the rascal doesn't notice the cart coming from the opposite direction and is pulled away from there. With the path clear, Falcon runs toward a factory, where he distributes the food he took to his animal friends. In addition, he brings the hot dog to his teachers, 3 rat brothers who are martial arts masters. Finally, Falcon goes to meet Rico, a pigeon who raised him since childhood, giving him the name Maurice. However, the raccoon prefers to be called Falcon, and tells his adoptive father that he needs to go, as he's landed a new job. He explains that a badger named Hans has hired him to steal a shipment of food from a luxury train. Rico doesn't think this is a good idea, since robbing a moving train can be very risky. However, Falcon promises that everything will be fine, and with the food from the train, they'll be able to have a real Christmas dinner. Rico then wishes him good luck, and the raccoon heads to the station, just as the passengers begin to take their seats. Among them is a cat named Maggie, who is left by her owner in a small house to be taken to the animal car. While waiting at the station, Maggie is impressed to see a raccoon leaping onto the train's roof with extreme ease. Using a communicator, Falcon contacts Hans, who tells him to go to the main car and connect a device to the train's network. Meanwhile, Maggie is taken to the animal car, where she meets several other animals. Coco, one of the parrots, falls in love with Judy at first sight, but he feels too insecure to talk to her, because even though he's a bird, he never learned to fly. The animals get to know each other inside, while Falcon arrives in the same car, hidden, and connects another device to the cables. He is almost finished with the job when more animals appear. Seeing that the police dog might disrupt their plans, the raccoon tells Hans that he has finished connecting the devices to the network. He then asks the badger to hurry up and open the food car, but instead, the badger hacks the system and makes the train depart before the passengers board. With no idea what is happening, Lisa, Maggie's owner, sees the train moving and tries to catch up to it, but it's useless, and her friend is carried away. The train careens out of control through the city, just as a man dressed as Santa Claus stops his car in the middle of the tracks. Seeing the train coming toward him, Santa Claus runs desperately away from there, seconds before his car is destroyed by the impact. Inside the car, the raccoon tries to talk to Hans over the communicator, but the badger isn't responding. As the train's speed increases more and more, Falcon ends up being thrown in front of all the animals. Victor the dog asks why he isn't in a cage, and Rex the German Shepherd says he's smelling a strange scent, one he usually picks up when hunting thieves with the police. The raccoon tries to cover it up, saying he's the engineer's mascot and came to check if everything was okay in the car. Rex doesn't believe it, but Maggie gets excited to see the raccoon again, saying he was able to jump off the train as if he were flying. Falcon takes advantage of this and tells his story, that he was abandoned as a baby and a human tried to shoot him for breaking into his house. The raccoon was hit in the ear, but luckily, he was found by a falcon, who took him in to raise him alongside his own chicks. During that time, he learned hunting techniques, and ever since, he has kept the bullet that wounded his ear, tying it to his paw with a bandage. Again, Rex doesn't believe this story, but before the two start an argument, Hans uses the computer to increase the train's speed. The ground begins to shake, and as the train passes near a crane, a cup of coffee spills onto the operator's leg. Because of this, he ends up knocking a steel beam into a building, causing an iron structure to fall onto the tracks. The train crashes into the debris, but it manages to get through, and the front end is protected by several iron bars. It doesn't take long for this incident to make the news on TV, with 2 reporter friends, Johnson and Johnson, capturing everything live on camera. Through the TV in the car, Falcon and the other animals discover they are in danger, with the train careening out of control. In the middle of the program, the reporters interview the animals' owners, including Lisa, who asks for help to save her kitten. However, it may already be too late, because if the train continues at this speed, it will derail and the collision will cause all the cars to explode. Suddenly, the TV broadcast is interrupted, and Hans appears on the screen, saying he is taking control of the train. The badger reveals that he did all this to get revenge on Rex, the same German Shepherd who captured him, along with his gang, during a robbery. Hans then ends the broadcast, promising that the German Shepherd will regret it, along with the other animals. Realizing he has been betrayed, Falcon tries to think of a way to escape the train, which continues to speed forward. Maggie explains that she has traveled many times with her owner, and if they don't stop the train soon, it will derail at the bridge crossing. The cat suggests they separate all the cars, because by reducing the weight, the train will be able to cross the bridge safely. The animals can do this together, but they're trapped in cages, and the keys are in the other car. The only one who can get them is Falcon, but to do so, he'll have to crawl under the train while it's still moving. Since this is their only chance to survive, the raccoon agrees, and as soon as he reaches the underside of the train, he spots a small ladder on the next car. To reach it, Falcon grabs a wrench, ties a rope to it, and throws it, hooking the wrench onto a metal loop. He then ties the other end to secure the rope and begins the crossing, but the bolt holding one of the loops begins to loosen. At the last second, the raccoon jumps off the rope and reaches the ladder, but loses his backpack with his supplies. Meanwhile, Maggie grows worried that Falcon is taking too long, and Rex suspects that he took the opportunity to run away, leaving the animals behind. However, seconds later, the train car door opens and Falcon appears on the other side, holding the key to the cages. He then begins to free all the animals, but when it's Rex's turn, Hans decides to intervene and makes the train speed up even more. Next, the badger appears on TV, telling the animals not to trust the raccoon, since he's one of the ones responsible for what happened. Everyone is confused, but Falcon throws the key at the TV screen and tells the group to ignore the badger, since they need to get off the train as soon as possible. Hans flies into a rage and continues to control the train, causing the car to sway and toss the cages from side to side. Fortunately, the movement breaks the latches on the cages, and the animals manage to escape. However, Victor's cage starts getting pushed away and hits a glass aquarium, where a snake named Anna is hiding. The dog panics, thinking he's going to be eaten, but the snake thanks him for his help and uses her body to free the other animals. Finally, all that's left is to rescue the clownfish Momo, but the train's movement sends his tank flying through the car. Anna and Rex try to catch it in midair, but the tank shatters on the floor, and Falcon rushes to put the fish in a pickle jar, filling it with water. All the animals are safe, but Falcon realizes that the food cabinet is destroyed, and he won't be able to take it to his friends. Rex notices the raccoon's behavior and finds it suspicious, but there's no time to waste, and the group needs to move on. The animals then continue through the train, but the movement of the cars has caused a fire in the kitchen. Rex thinks it's dangerous to cross, but there's no other way out of the train, and Falcon leads everyone, showing the way away from the flames. Everything is going well, but when Coco tries to pass, a gas tank comes loose from the ceiling and falls straight into the fire. The explosion destroys the floor and the car's ceiling, but Coco is pushed by the impact and makes it to the other side safely. Despite this, part of the group was left behind, and without the floor, they have no way to cross. Falcon then has an idea, and using the ceiling lights, he lowers them in a row, forming a bridge they can cross. Leo, the turtle, is the first to cross, but the ventilation grate falls onto the bridge, causing his shell to ricochet across the train car. Fortunately, the turtle makes it to the other side, and it's the rabbit Janice's turn, who manages to cross the bridge without any problems. She then calls her husband to come with her, but Jimmy gets scared and tells his wife to go on without him. However, Rex loses his patience and picks up the lunatic in his teeth, carrying him across the bridge until they reach the other side. Finally, Falcon throws the pot with Momo to the other side of the train car, and now only Victor remains to cross the bridge. The dog is afraid, but the raccoon asks him to follow without looking down until they reach the other side. Victor obeys, but the wires holding the lantern snap, and the dog begins to fall, his paws almost touching the tracks. Just as he's about to slip, the dog is saved by Anna, who wraps her body around Victor and pulls him safely back into the car. Finally, all the animals manage to cross, and seconds later, the two rear cars detach from the train. Still, Maggie warns that more cars must be removed so the train can slow down and safely cross the bridge. Far away, at the train station, Rico and the three rat masters go to see if Falcon has returned, but there is no sign of him anywhere. Shortly after, they watch the news report on TV, showing that the runaway train continues on its journey and will derail very soon. Realizing it's the same train Falcon is on, Rico decides to help his son and flies toward the TV station. Upon arriving, he sees Johnson & Johnson getting into the helicopter and clings to the craft to find Falcon. Back on the train, the raccoon continues to guide the animals until they reach the 8th car. At that very moment, the helicopter manages to catch up with them, just as the train is about to cross the bridge. Maggie warns that they need to uncouple the cars as soon as possible, so Falcon and Rex join forces to release the coupling. Minutes later, the train begins to cross the enormous iron bridge, but its speed and weight cause the structure to start collapsing. After much effort, the duo manages to remove the coupling and the cars break loose, but Rex remains inside them, and Falcon tells him to jump. The distance between the cars and the train grows wider and wider, but Rex steps back and takes a long leap, managing to reach the other side. Finally, the cars fall into the massive chasm, but the explosion further weakens the bridge, which continues to collapse. Because of this, the eighth car begins to give way, and the train stops moving, threatening to fall into the chasm at any moment. The animals do their best to hold on, until one of the suitcases falls to the floor, spilling a bag of sugar candies. One of them lands right in front of Randy the dog, who is obsessed with sugar, and unable to resist, he swallows the candy, but this sends him into a deep sleep. The little dog starts to slip, and Coco tries to save him, but he can't support the dog's weight, and the two fall out of the car, disappearing into the smoke. It seems to be the end, but seconds later, Coco appears carrying Randy, having finally learned to fly. His wings can't support the weight, but luckily, a car explodes off the cliff, and the shockwave pushes Coco and Randy back onto the train. Furthermore, the explosion also pushes the eighth car, causing the train to get back on the tracks and continue moving, leaving the bridge behind. At the same time, the film crew records everything, but Johnson drops his camera and has to return to the station to get a new one. The helicopter then turns around, but Rico goes on alone to find Falcon. The train continues its journey, and the animals celebrate having survived yet another danger, with the parrot Judy congratulating Coco on his bravery. Despite this, Maggie says they are still in danger, as they need to reach the lead car and pull the emergency brake. The group then hurries to get there, but on the way, a severe storm breaks out, and the train passes by a lumberyard. The force of the train makes the ground shake again, and the logs come loose, rolling down toward the tracks. One of the logs ends up hitting the side of the car, but despite this, none of the animals are injured. Falcon then tells everyone to keep going, but Maggie notices that the bandage on his paw has come loose, and instead of a bullet, there's a soda can ring. She then confronts the raccoon, who, unable to hide the truth, reveals that he wasn't raised by falcons, but by a pigeon. Furthermore, the wound on his ear wasn't from a bullet, but from a soda can he stole, which exploded near his face. Faced with this deception, Rex immediately understands what Hans meant when he spoke of Falcon's involvement in all of this. He deduces that the raccoon helped him hack the system so he could break into the train and steal all the food. Falcon tries to explain himself, but Hans decides to end it all and makes the train speed up again, pushing the raccoon out of the car. The animals can't believe what just happened, and Maggie cries, believing that Falcon is gone forever. In the face of this tragedy, Rex takes charge of the group and tells everyone to keep going, since they still need to stop the train. Miraculously, Falcon survived by landing on a branch, but he ends up slipping and falling into a lake in the middle of the forest. Despite the fall, the raccoon survives and sits nearby, saddened by having deceived his new friends. Meanwhile, the train continues on, and Rex tells the animals to stay in the cabin while he and Maggie go look for the emergency brake. After walking a short distance, the two find a passage blocked by several piled-up suitcases. Rex tries to move them all, but Maggie climbs through the window, and mimicking Falcon, she attempts to reach the other car by walking along the roof of the moving train. However, Hans sees everything on the cameras, and using a glider, he heads toward the train, where he sees Maggie entering the main car. Inside, the cat tries to pull the emergency brake, but is stopped by Hans, who manages to grab her with his claws. Nearby, Rico finds Falcon in the forest and is happy to see him alive, but the raccoon is dejected for having let his friends down. Suddenly, the two see the train approaching along the tracks, and Rico says Falcon can save them, but he believes he'll only make things worse. Rico then tells him that, even though he makes mistakes, he's always been proud of Falcon for always being willing to help his friends. Now, he must do the same for the animals on the train, and the raccoon accepts the advice, but needs to find a way to reach the train. Looking through the forest, he finds a small cart lying on the ground, and the raccoon races down the steep slope at full speed to save his friends. He needs to hurry, because Rex has just unloaded all the luggage and arrives at the other car, where he finds Hans holding Maggie. He orders the badger to let her go, but Hans throws Maggie out the window, and the cat barely manages to hold on using her claws. Rex then charges at Hans, attacking him with his bites, but the badger is stronger and pushes him away. The police dog gets back up, but he dislocates his paw in the fall and can't walk properly. To make matters worse, Maggie is about to slip from the window, and Rex tries to help her, but she ends up grabbing onto his injured paw. Hans seizes the opportunity and starts attacking Rex, but is attacked by Duck, who, along with Leo and Momo, rushes in to face him. Despite their combined efforts, the three are defeated, and Hans prepares for round 2. Unfortunately for him, Falcon keeps speeding up the cart, jumps off a ramp, crashes through the train window, and lands on top of Hans. The badger quickly recovers from the blow and goes after Falcon, who lures him into another car and closes the door, leaving his friends safe. After that, Hans throws Falcon against the door and tries to punch him, but Falcon protects himself with a skateboard and flees to another car. The two arrive in the bar area, and the raccoon grabs 2 spice racks and fills them with sugar bullets. Next, Falcon jumps off the counter and starts shooting the candies at Hans, who defends himself using a chair. Falcon runs out of ammunition and escapes through the window, with the badger following him up to the train's roof. The fight between the two continues, and shortly after, the news crew's helicopter appears, with Johnson broadcasting everything on television. In the middle of the broadcast, the news anchor breaks a breaking news story, saying that train control has just changed the route of the tracks. This means the train will continue onto an unfinished section of track, plunging straight off a massive cliff. Falcon needs to stop this, but he begins to be attacked by Hans, who hurls him to the other side of the car. Rico appears to help his son, urging him to trust himself and his abilities to defeat the badger. Upon hearing this, Falcon recalls his training with the 3 rat masters, who taught him a special triple attack technique. Finally, Rico tells his son to get up, and he lunges at the badger, but the badger grabs him in midair and hurls him away. This enrages Falcon, who lunges at Hans, delivering a kick and uppercut punch to the animal. The badger still resists and advances against the raccoon, but the raccoon delivers the final blow, slamming him to the ground and ordering the villain to surrender. However, Hans refuses to give up, grabbing the raccoon, lifting him into the air, and slamming him against a train signal. After that, the badger grabs his glider and confronts the animals, saying that they will all fall off the cliff, along with the train. To his surprise, Jimmy the rabbit decides to act, leaping toward Hans and landing punches and kicks on the badger. Next, Rex and the others use Anna as a rope, tie up Hans, and pull him toward the train, with Jimmy taking control of the glider. The train is about to cross the altered route, but the rabbit crashes the glider into the tracks, causing them to switch back to the original route. Despite this, the train is now heading toward the city, and an accident will not only endanger the lives of the animals but also those of the region's residents. With time running out, Falcon recovers from the blow and sees the train about to veer off on a curve. Risking everything, he leaps into the air, spreading his arms to glide like a bird, and manages to reach the other side of the curve, clinging to the lead car. Then, Falcon enters the cab and begins pulling the emergency brake as the train rapidly approaches the city. The animals try to hold on, bracing for the impact, but Falcon pulls the brake just in time, and the train stops just a few meters from plummeting onto the road. Finally, the danger has passed, and the animals get off the train, having prevented a tragedy. Outside, Maggie reunites with Lisa, her owner, while Rex and the police take Hans away to face justice for his crimes. The pair of rabbits decide to leave, as Janice is about to give birth, and Coco confesses his feelings to Judy, with the two becoming a couple. Finally, Falcon heads back home alongside Rico, certain he did the right thing. However, he tells his father he already has a new job to do, and instead of a train, his next target will be nothing less than an airplane.